Welcome to Be Live TV tonight with Elsie Kerns, Chaos to Clarity Coach, and astrologer Pam Younghans. You know, I had to ask Pam to come on tonight and speak about this total lunar eclipse that's going to be combined with the full moon tomorrow night, because people seem to be in a lot of chaos, not only individually, but collectively. So I turned to Pam and I asked her if she could join us and tell us a little bit about this lunar eclipse and why it seems to be so unique, what we can expect to happen. Pam?
Great. Thank you, Elsie. So, well, we all know, total lunar eclipses always correspond with the full moon. So we already know from what we know about full moons is that emotions are heightened, things are a little bit more chaotic than usual, perhaps. And then the lunar eclipse is like a mega full moon. And then this is a total lunar eclipse, which doesn't happen every time. And that's even amps this up even more. And then it's also a supermoon. So a supermoon is when there's a full moon, when the moon is closest to the Earth, because the moon's orbit around the Earth is not circular, it's oval, a little bit oval. And so there are times when it's closer to the Earth. And so this eclipse and this total lunar eclipse is happening when the moon is closer to the Earth. So we expect heightened emotions. We expect bigger tides. We expect things to be a little bit awry and I wouldn't say chaotic in and of itself, but eclipses tend to have that energy about them anyway. We often see unexpected things happening with eclipses. And this one in particular, it has a strong involvement of the planet Uranus. And Uranus is this kind of chaotic energy. Uranus in mythology was the god of chaos. So we already have this very heightened lunar eclipse going on, and then Uranus is impacting it in a big way. So there is a lot of unexpected energy moving around. In the positive, Uranus is also the planet that represents higher consciousness. And so it's here to help us expand, to help us move beyond limitations. And yet that also involves change, which can feel chaotic because we like to have things be familiar at least. And Uranus is all about things not being very familiar. Does that make some sense?
Yeah. So Pam, maybe you can help me with this, because there is a term that I keep hearing with this called the Great Attractor. And I'm not sure, there must be a couple of planets combined, or actually, what that term actually means.
Okay, perfect. So the Great Attractor is a big black hole. It's a huge black hole. And most of us have heard of black holes. They are very magnetic. They draw things towards them. And astronomers have found that that black holes are really actually the source of everything that's around them. So the Great Attractor is a black hole that is both the source and this attracting magnetic energy for our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, and all the galaxies in what's called our supercluster. But what's interesting about this is that this is emphasized right now with the eclipse, but also throughout this week, because the planets Jupiter and Venus are actually at the same degree. They are aligned, and then together they are aligned with that Great Attractor. The way that I interpret this is that the Great Attractor is always pulling us forward. But what's interesting is that astronomers have fairly recently, maybe about 10 years ago, found out that that Great Attractor is also moving in space, is moving away from us, but also drawing us toward it. And everything in astrology is really symbolic. And this continual pulling, to me, really represents that we're continually evolving. in essence, we're continually moving towards our source, but then our source is also evolving. So anytime that this energy, this point in space is emphasized, we're going to see a lot of push in an evolutionary direction. For Jupiter and Venus to be aligned with this space, with this black hole, Venus rules relationships and Jupiter kind of magnifies things. So I think in a very positive way, it can help us take relationships to the next step. It can help us evolve our hearts. Venus is the goddess of love. And so there's actually a lot of very positive energy. Venus also rules creativity and what we value. So this is also a time where we might see changes in those areas because it's all about evolving into something new, but we can also see expansion. So that part of this eclipse actually is, I think, very positive and helpful.
Pam, I know that you mentioned that this would be affecting us throughout the week, but I know in the past you've also helped us understand that eclipses have like a long running way of playing out in our life.
Exactly. So yes, eclipses, they're, arguably they're strongest around the time that they occur. So, but we've got this whole season of eclipses. Eclipses always come at least in pairs. And we had an eclipse on January 5th, and now we have this one tomorrow. Sorry, trying to remember the exact date. And then we don't have another pair of eclipses until 6 months from now. So even though the energy is strongest around the time of the actual events, it's setting some themes for the next 6 months until that next pair of eclipses occurs. So things that are coming up now, we're going to continue to work with. And there are some other elements of the eclipse chart, like Saturn aligned with Pluto, which is going to be very strong throughout this year, and it also goes into 2020. So we should expect to see things that are up now continue to play out over time.
Pam, one of the things that people are talking about and reporting is that they're having trouble sleeping. And I know during a full moon, which is tomorrow night with this eclipse, a lot of times people do have trouble sleeping because of the heightened energy. And of course, up here on the East Coast, we have this big storm that's going to move through starting tomorrow morning. So what is the connection between these eclipses, full moons, and sleep, would you say?
Perfect. So yes, like you said, a lot of people are very in tune with the lunar cycle. So when the full moon comes along, things are kind of amped up. Think of what the moon does with tides. It shifts water, and we are like 80 something, 90 something, I forget what the percentage is. Our bodies are that much water. And so the moon really does pull on us. So it's going to disrupt our sleeping cycles around the time of the full moon. And then when you talk about it being a total lunar eclipse and we talk about it being a super moon, that's really amped up. And then something that I think is really significant too is I was talking earlier about Uranus being involved in this eclipse. And Uranus is the planet of higher consciousness. It does kind of amp up the energy field. And so I think for all of us, there's also kind of an uptick in our energy field in many ways. Again, a part of that evolutionary process. But when energy is excited in us, it's very hard to sleep. I had real problems sleeping last night. So I finally got up and meditated, and it was a great meditation. So it kind of confirmed for me that, yeah, all this heightened energy, it also does have the spiritual side of it that we can really take advantage of. But as far as kind of staying on track with the sleep cycle or staying in our routine, it's not at all helpful for that.
Well, that makes sense. And I do want to say hello to many of the people that have joined us here. I see Valerie, Nick Johnson, hi, I haven't seen you for a while, and Helen Kennedy out in Arizona. I'm sure it's beautiful out there. Rebecca and Ray and Jillian, Kate, Mary, wow, Georgia. So I appreciate everybody joining us. And I want to mention that Pam does a weekly journal that comes out usually Sunday afternoons. Pam, you want to talk a little bit about that because it's a free journal that people can sign up for at your website.
Right. It really, every week I write the journal based on what's going to be happening in the week ahead astrologically. So I look at what the planets are doing and I talk about them and I share what this could mean. And it is a free offering, and I'm happy for anybody to add themselves to the subscription list. You can do that on my website, which is northpointastrology.com. And if you go to the journal page, you can read this week's journal, and you can also, in the right-hand column, you can also see the place to sign up or to be a part of the weekly offering. I do also want to say, I don't know if you're done thinking about the eclipse, but I also want to mention one more thing about it. This eclipse occurs when the moon is in Leo, and eclipses stay in a certain pair of signs for a while, usually about 18 months up to 2 years. And this is the last Leo eclipse. So it was the Leo Aquarius polarity that we've been working with since 2017. So Leo rules kings and queens and kind of those people who take charge and are dramatic. It's, Leo is the lion, the king of the jungle. So it really rules our leadership. So that's been really the focus. And we've seen a lot of conflict and changes and issues coming up around leadership. Now, what from here is happening is that the eclipses are then shifting into Cancer and Capricorn. The North Node in Cancer is representing a shift to public opinion. So moving from an emphasis on we're going to, bring the leaders up into the news in a big way, and they're going to have all of this attention. And now we're moving into public opinion, gaining strength and being in the focus and being in the spotlight. And the other thing is that Leo is a masculine sign and Cancer, what we're moving into, is a feminine sign. So there are going to be some shifts in and how a lot of things are playing out with that shift occurring.
Well, I think that's already happening. I know we had marches today in Philadelphia, women, demonstrating and speaking out, all over. I know not too long ago in India, the Indian women had a line of, I think it was 300 miles long of the women demonstrating for rights that they wanted. So it sounds like we're right on target with what the sun, moon, and stars are bringing up for all of us.
Right, exactly.
So I know, Pam, we just finished this week course that a 6-month update, and I'll give people a little bit of information about that on Facebook when we get down, and I'll just see if we have any other. Valerie loves these programs, and we have a couple more people joining us. So this is great. I'm glad everybody joined in, and we're going to have this up on Facebook. And also, I'll probably make it into a YouTube so that it's easy for everyone to get, even if they are not on Facebook. So Pam, any last advice for us as we move through this next event?
Right. Well, a couple other things come to mind. The power of words is very important right now. A part of this eclipse chart shows Mercury aligned with Pluto and aligned with something called the South Node, which can pull us back into old patterns. So we really want to watch how we communicate, our thought patterns, how we project anger, and to just be very conscious of our communications during this time. And we're likely to see, it's hard to say that this would amp up even more, but even more of kind of the the backbiting and the negative kind of communication that can come about. The other thing is that in a very positive way, the sun is placed between Neptune and Jupiter for this eclipse, and these are two very spiritual planets and creative and imaginative. So again, we see an emphasis perhaps on the spiritual component coming forward, on that being highlighted. So again, there are plenty of really positive things going on, but we have to kind of surrender and stay flexible and stay in our best energetic form, which means not falling prey to some of the negativity that can be out there.
Very good advice. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is Elsie Kerns, and I'm signing off for Pam and I on Be Live TV. It's been a lot of fun. Pam, thank you for some of this added insight that will help us ride through the next week. And this year, as I said earlier to you, we're really starting off with a lot of activity for the first month. Wow.
Exactly. 2 eclipses right out of the chute.
Right out of the chute. So have a great weekend, everyone, and please be safe as we go through this storm, and we'll have this up for you to review tonight and tomorrow as we actually step into that full moon day and total lunar eclipse. Thanks so much for coming on, Pam, and
thank you,
it was great to see you as always.
Good to see you too. Take care out there.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.